Raditz of ABC News and Anderson Cooper of CNN.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We're very honored to be here. I want to thank Washington University in St. Louis for hosting this debate, and also the Commission on Presidential Debates for sponsoring this. This is obviously a town hall format tonight. It's a chance for the Americans on this stage and thousands of people who've sent in questions online to ask questions
So
for
Alon.
the candidates.
And after they've asked their questions, they've promised to remain silent.
So Alon, how do you think this is going to go tonight?
See,
What
the
do
one
you
thing
think you're going to say?
I'm scared that I remember that Anderson Cooper was very lax on Republican candidates in the primary. So that's the only thing I'm scared of. I hope that that doesn't happen. That's the only thing I can say right now, because I remember he was pretty tough on Democrats and pretty lax on Republicans. So if that translates here, then he'll be lax on Trump and tough on Clinton, which just wouldn't be fair. So,
But here's another question.
Yeah.
In terms of him being lax, do you think Trump even needs someone to be lax in this case? Or do you think being lax is going to help him at all?
I think yes.
Considering his recent comments.
Because Lester Holt did a good job of sometimes calling Trump out. I don't know if Anderson Cooper would do that. And that's what and people even got mad at Lester Holt for calling him out.
Yeah.
But
do you think we're gonna need a moderator in this case to call him out? Because we do have Hillary, who's quite the seasoned debater herself, and I can imagine, obviously bringing the hard punches, especially if Trump punches back about Bill Clinton, who we just saw on the screen.
I mean, it's a different thing between Hillary interrupting him and the moderator interrupting him. Hillary interrupting him, it's like, oh, she's just trying to get her point across. When you hear a moderator interrupting someone, it's like, okay, they're straight up getting the facts wrong because they're a moderator. They're supposed to be neutral.
Yes, indeed. So, I'm just going to introduce what we're doing right here before the debate starts in a minute. I'm Joshua Sodikoff with Alon Goldfinger. We're going to be doing a commentary on the debate tonight. There's a lot to talk about. It's going to be interesting. When it starts, we're going to turn the sound full. And we're going to be talking when there's breaks. We're going to be talking when we hear things. We're going to be fact-checking, probably to some extent. We're going to make this an enriching experience for all viewers coming from East Side. It's going to be interesting. So, happy to have this experience going on right now. Any words you'd like to say, Alon, before we really get down to the nitty-gritty of this?
I think this is going to be an interesting debate. I think we're going to be here to help you to teach you guys about the fact-checking and various intricacies of this debate, and we hope you stay around for this debate.
There's not going to be policy, but you know what? It's going to be great.
Yeah, I have a feeling they're going to veer off of policy.
Oh, look, it's montage.
Oh my gosh. Is this going to be like a wrestling montage again?
Cage match, please. Oh, okay. They're not really going to start. We can talk more.
Okay. Yeah, as I was saying, I just hope... Oh, what was the other moderator's name? Martha what? She's from ABC.
I don't know. You check that for me. I'm going to talk for a little. So there's going to be no policy in this debate at all. I'm saying that right now. If there's policy, it's going to be as minor as possible. It's probably going to be about racial issues because of the proximity to Ferguson.
In my opinion, this debate is going to veer off a lot into Trump's comments about women. I think that is what Clinton is going to rely on a lot.
Well, let's discuss that a little. Is that going to hinder them at all?
What do you mean?
Is that going to be an actual issue or not?
Okay, so let me say this. In terms of, I think this is the thing that might have hurt Donald Trump the most.
Yeah.
Just because the response that happened from them. The response that happened was basically the Republican Party abandoning him, in which you have John McCain just completely taking away his recommendation. Mm-hmm. And then you have and saying like, I cannot reasonably support anyone like this, and then Paul Ryan not officially taking it away, but saying, please drop out before you hurt this Republican Party.
Indeed.
At this point, it's something that hurt him a lot, and I think Clinton is going to exploit that a lot, which I'm I'm happy in one sense because it's like, yeah, you should call him out on something like that. But on the other hand, this isn't policy.
Yeah. What I think is sort of funny about it is that you had all these Republicans who decided to wait so long to endorse Trump. They wanted to make sure it was the right decision, that he wouldn't suddenly drop out or anything. We've seen so many over the more recent time period taking away their endorsements. And I think for the amount of preparation, the amount of vetting that I suppose that went into making sure Trump was really endorsable, it's an interesting turn of events. I'd also like to bring our attention sort of to what are called the unreleased tapes from The Apprentice and from other shows Trump's been, where supposedly they have evidence of him doing much worse things. Alon, what do you think the worst thing they could find on Trump is?
I don't want to say in this live coverage. I don't want us to get kicked off or anything. I think, in my opinion, worse than what he said there, then it has to be something borderline illegal. Like, what he said there was already borderline illegal, but borderline, like, giving you a hard sentence illegal. Of course, he's rich, so he won't get that sentence, but for any normal person would get that sentence. Are they going on now?
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
Anderson Cooper from CNN. We want to welcome you to Washington University in St. Louis for the second presidential debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. Tonight's debate is a town hall format, which gives voters a chance to directly ask the candidates questions. Martha and I will ask follow-up questions, but the night really belongs to the people in this room and to people across the country who have submitted questions online.
The people you see on this stage were chosen by the Gallup organization. They are all from the St. Louis area and told Gallup they haven't committed to a candidate. There with questions they want to ask, and we saw those questions for the first time this morning. Anderson and I and our team from ABC and CNN are the only ones who have seen them. Both candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each online question. We hope to get to as many questions as we can, so we've asked the audience here not to slow things down with any applause, except for now. Ladies and gentlemen, the Republican nominee for President, Donald J. Trump, and the Democratic nominee for President, Hillary Clinton.
Yay! Wow, look at them. Oh, this is going to be important. The handshake. I've heard a lot about the handshake today. The way that they interact right here, right now, is the most important thing. The change is.
This is so awkward.
Oh no!
Did he not do the
Where
handshake?
was that?
Thank you very much for being here. We're going to begin with a question.
He's standing behind the chair.
In our town hall. Each will have 2 minutes to respond to this question. Secretary Clinton, you won the coin toss, so you'll go first. Our first question.
Of course, she won the coin toss,
Patrice
99%.
Patrice?
Thank you and good evening. The last presidential debate could have been rated as MA, mature audiences, per TV parental guidelines.
Oh
Knowing
no!
that
Wait, does that mean
educators
we're gonna have to
assign viewing
beat
the
things
presidential
out,
debates as
Alon?
students' homework, do you feel you're modeling appropriate and positive behavior for today's youth?
Well, thank you. Are you a teacher? Yes, I think that's a very good question, because I've heard from lots of teachers and parents about some of their concerns about some of the things that are being said and done in this campaign.
This is an interesting first
and I think
question.
it is very important for us to make clear to our children that our country really is great because we're good. And we are going to respect one another, lift each other up. We are going to be looking for ways to celebrate our diversity. And we are going to try to reach out to every boy and girl as well as every adult. to bring them in to working on behalf of our country. I have a very positive and
This
optimistic
is very
view about
positive.
what we can do.
Alone,
together.
let's just cut in right
That's why
here.
the slogan of
Yeah,
my
I
campaign
think this.
This is so positive. I can't
If we
take
work
it.
together, if we overcome the divisiveness
She's-
that sometimes sets America.
It's
It's good
amazing.
because that's to establish herself as a very reasonable and respectable person that your child would want to be, or like brother, sister, children want to be.
Not just the
And she has to make
Yeah,
that
white
difference between Trump. Yeah.
collar crimes aren't that bad.
But at the same time, like when she talks to people, she doesn't like say what what Donald
There's
Trump
nothing
said.
that America can't do.
Yeah.
So that's why I hope
You know what
that
though?
we
This is
will
amazing.
come together in this
Wow.
campaign. Obviously, I'm hoping
Let's
to
just
earn your
listen a little.
vote. I'm hoping to be elected in November, and I can promise you I will work with every American. I want to be the president for all Americans.
I didn't
regardless of your
guess.
political beliefs, where you come from, what you look like, your religion.
Hillary.
I want us to heal our country and bring it together, because
Hillary,
that's, I think,
Hillary.
the best way for us to get the future that our children and our grandchildren deserve.
Secretary Clinton, thank you. Mr. Trump, you have 2 minutes.
Well, I actually agree with that. I agree with
Poor Donald.
everything she said.
Weak Donald.
Again,
Oh, that's so weak.
because I was so tired of seeing such foolish things happen to our country. This is a great country. This is a great land. I've gotten to know the people of the country over the last year and a half that I've been.
This is starting off really interesting.
I believe I'm saying it about myself, but I guess I'm a politician.
I don't know who's answering the question. Alone, is he answering the question?
Make America great. But
He hasn't said anything about this.
what's happened.
Is he imploding already?
We are
Oh no.
going up by numbers that are astronomical. 68%, 59%.
Oh my God.
He's just throwing numbers around now.
I like numbers a lot, though.
But it's the wrong
I think
numbers
Hillary-
in the wrong question.
Hillary likes numbers a lot, too.
But you makes them mean something to the question at hand.
We made from really a very weak country just 3
Caleb.
years ago. When I look at all of the things that I see and all of the potential that our country has, we have such tremendous potential, whether it's in business and trade, where we're doing so badly. Last year, we had an almost $800 billion trade deficit. In other words, trading with other countries, we had an $800 billion deficit. It's hard to believe. Inconceivable. You say, who's making these deals? We're going to make great trade.
Okay, I'm really
deals.
confused now.
He's talking about trade? I mean, that's a BS argument anyway. If you look at anything, such a Republican talking point. Oh, Obama was handed this terrible thing from the recession. And he
Okay, I think the big thing right here is he's acknowledging that he doesn't know what the hell's going on with his campaign. He has no idea how to answer.
Citizens that are so great. And for the Latinos.
The Latinos.
And I look forward to it. It's called Make America Great Again.
Thank you, Mr. Trump.
Okay,
The
so he
question
didn't
from
answer the
citizens is
question
about
at all.
are you
I knew
modeling
it.
Positive and appropriate behaviors for today's youth. We received a lot of questions online, Mr. Trump, about the tape that was released on Friday. As you can imagine.
Oh,
already?
Start kissing women without consent, grabbing their genitals. That is sexual assault.
that's how I thought he would have said it.
Do you understand that?
No, I didn't say that at all. I don't think you understand.
Oh,
my
no.
gosh.
No, he had one shot. He did not miss his chance to blow. It's campaign. It's a once in a lifetime, yo. Oh no.
But this is locker room talk. You know, when we have a world
Okay,
where you have
so
ISIS chopping off heads,
listen,
where you
I
have
thought it could have gone either way, and it went the way.
villages, where you
Of
have
him
I guess-
imploding.
I guess we could have hoped he went this way because we don't like him.
Yeah, but
but-
things happening. This is like
it's
Hillary's
sad to
just.
watch, to be honest.
all over the world.
Do you see the bloodthirstiness in her eyes?
She doesn't even have to say anything.
So well,
She's just sitting back and watching him ruin his own campaign.
She's just looking up into the air, thinking about her career, how everything has led up to this final pitch, this softball pitch. Oh,
We're going to defeat ISIS. ISIS
to be Hillary right
He's
now.
talking about ISIS.
vacuum that was
Yes.
left
So
because of bad judgment. And I will tell you, I will take care of ISIS.
So, Mr. Trump,
He's going to take care of ISIS, though. That's a good
But how?
thing.
And much bigger things.
just for the
That's
record,
not the
though,
point.
are you saying that what you said on that bus 11 years ago, that you did not actually kiss women without consent or grope women without
I
consent?
have great respect for women. Nobody has more respect for women.
I don't
than
think he
do.
could have gotten
Is he
consent.
not answering that question?
Frankly,
No.
you hear these
That
things
this is the
said,
point, Alon.
I
He's
was
breaking
impressed by it.
himself.
He can't even say I did not commit sexual assault.
Have respect for me. And
I
will
mean,
tell you, no, I have not.
He can't lie.
I'll
He's
tell
going to have to
you
plead the
that
fifth on
We're
that.
going to make our country safe. We're going to have borders on our country.
my
which we
God.
don't have now. People are pouring into our
We have a
country.
presidential candidate that is dodging a
At least
question about
another
whether he
2 years.
committed sexual assault.
We're going to make America great again, but we're going to because if you don't do that, it sounds harsh to say, but we
Oh,
have to
God.
build up the wealth.
Oh, God,
nations.
man.
Now other nations are taking our jobs.
I
and
mean,
they're
I
taking
want
our
him to
wealth.
say
Thank you,
good
Mr.
things.
That's what I want to talk about.
Secretary Clinton, do you want to respond?
I want him to say substantial things.
Wait.
Well,
Get Rose.
Like everyone else, I spent a lot of time thinking over the last 48 hours about what we heard and saw. You know, with
Oh, God.
prior Republican nominees for president, I disagreed with them on politics, policies, principles, but I never questioned their fitness to serve.
Whoa!
Wait, but she did for Bernie.
I said starting back
She said
in June
Republican.
Oh.
that he was not fit to be president and commander-in-chief. And many Republicans and independents have said the same thing.
Oh my God, she's gonna go on Burn Fest. Bernie
What
Fest.
we all saw and heard on Friday
Do you hear where she's leading to with this?
was
Yes.
Donald talking about women, what he thinks about women, what he does to women. And he has said that the video doesn't represent who he is. But I think it's clear to anyone who heard it that it represents exactly who he is. Because we've seen this throughout the campaign. We have seen him insult women.
He's pacing.
We've seen him rate women on their appearance, ranking them from 1 to 10.
She's just so calm. I
Seen
can't
him
believe
embarrass
it.
women on TV and on
I mean,
Twitter.
this is how she has to deal with it. She can't. She has to do
First
the answer
debate,
that's like safe and obvious, so that he doesn't turn it into something else.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah, you
personal
know what?
terms. So, yes, this is who Donald Trump is.
Oh.
But it's not only women, and it's not only this video that raises questions about his fitness to be our president, because he has also targeted immigrants, African Americans,
Oh.
Latino, people with
Okay,
disabilities.
you know
But to be
what?
fair, that
And so
not as much as Donald Trump just did, but that's also kind of dodging the question.
for us, question
No, she's
Our
answering it
country
and she's
must
expanding
answer.
it. When Donald was asked the
Yeah,
question,
yeah.
he talked about ISIS, but she's talking about
we are.
everyone he's offended.
That's why I go back to your
This is
question.
going there, man. I
I
mean,
want to send
ugh.
a message. We all should. To every boy and girl,
her
and indeed
pantsuit's
to the
just bringing
entire
the
world,
flame.
that America already is great, but we are great because we are good. And we will
Aw.
respect one
Nice.
another.
And she's repeating.
work with one
See, the
another.
one thing I don't like
And
about her
we-
is she repeats lines over and over again, and then that just
We are
takes away
very
from what she's saying. Yeah, America's
This
Yeah,
is
good.
and
America.
she's eloquent enough. She could definitely be saying
And I can
new
pledge to you
things.
tonight
good
that
things.
this is the America that I will serve if I'm so fortunate enough to become your president.
And we want to get to some questions
Well, am
from
I allowed to
online.
respond to that? I
Oh,
assume I am.
Yes, you can respond to that.
It's just words, folks. It's just words. Those
Oh
words
my
I've been hearing.
god, he's going there.
he's denying now. Okay, well at least he's doing that. I mean, I can't blame him.
Running for the Senate in New York, where Hillary was going to bring back jobs to upstate New York, and she failed. I've heard
We
that
just had 2 viewers and they
Hillary's constantly
disappeared.
talking about the inner city of our country, a disaster, education-wise, job-wise, safety-wise, in every way possible. I'm going to help the African Americans.
He's right about
I'm
the
going to help
Hillary
the
job in New
Latinos.
York. That was actually something that you
Yeah.
could do.
Terrible
Yeah,
job
but
for the African Americans. She wants their vote, and she does not.
I don't know how
And
he's
she comes back
responding
4 years later.
except for that they're
He's,
just
the
words.
only thing he can
people.
do is deflect at this point. And it's kind of
Yeah,
smart of
I
him
mean-
to turn it into a policy thing. I mean, like, it's like
I want to get to audience questions and online questions.
She was just so
she's
calm,
allowed to
though.
do that, but
yeah,
I'm not
she
allowed to.
grilled him on that. He should just leave that as soon as possible.
Or he could leave the debate right now.
In just 48 hours, it's become the single most talked about story of the entire 2016 election.
How is that even
Facebook,
possible? There's been
with
so
millions
much
and
talked
millions of
about.
people discussing it on the social network.
Oh my god.
On the social
As we
network.
said a moment
That's
ago, we want
us.
to bring in questions from voters around the country via social media, and our first.
Okay, so if you're one of the two
Jeff
viewers
from
on right
Ohio
now, I would
asks on
recommend you ask
Facebook,
questions.
Trump says
Or
the
if you
campaign
can't,
has
just keep
changed
watching
him.
us.
When
Do
did
both.
that happen? Mr. Trump, let me add to that. When you walked off that bus at age 59, were you a different man, or did that behavior continue until just recently?
No,
Oh.
that behavior continued. What? Just thoughtful question.
I am a person who has great respect for people, for
Oh,
my family,
God.
for the people of this
Was
country.
he actually gonna say that he's the same person? That had he had the chance, he would say it again. Like what?
Yeah,
That's such a softball question.
Action.
yeah.
His words,
But-
what he's
but
done
he
to
can't
women.
even
There's
answer
never
that.
been anybody in the history of politics in this nation that's been so abusive to women. So you can say any way you want to say it, but Bill Clinton
Oh
was
my-
abusive to Hillary Clinton.
Okay, yeah, well, we knew this would happen. That he would
attacked
definitely
them
mention.
viciously. Four of them here
Bill.
tonight. One of the women, who is a wonderful woman, at 12 years old, was raped at 12. Her client, she represented, got him off, and she's seen laughing on 2 separate occasions, laughing at the girl who was raped. Kathy Shelton, that young woman, is here with us tonight. So,
Okay, let's go fact check on Kathy Shelton.
absolutely,
I'm
I
gonna
How
have
do you
do that.
spell it? Kathy.
Doing it.
things that people
It'll
Okay.
oh, found it.
Are these allegations true? Because I can't. Like, I'm finding a bunch of them from
Okay,
right-wing
I'll-
websites. I think that.
He had a $50,000 fine to one of the women, Paula Jones, who's also here tonight.
She came forward after 40 years to call Hillary
brings up
Clinton a
like
liar.
that, and she talks about words that I said 11 years ago. I think it's disgraceful, and I think she should be ashamed of herself, if you want to know the truth.
Okay, but she was a lawyer in the
Please
case.
call the applause.
There are
Secretary Clinton,
defense.
you have 2 minutes.
Well, first, let me start by saying he just said is not right, but he gets to run his campaign any way he chooses. He gets to decide what he wants to talk about. Instead of answering people's questions, talking about our agenda, laying out the plans that we have, that
She's just like
we think
straight
can
calling
make
him out, yeah.
Yeah.
a better life.
He literally said that Bill Clinton is abusing women.
I hear something
Yeah.
like that, I am reminded of what my friend Michelle Obama advised us all. When they go low, you go high.
Ooh.
She said that. That would have been a grill if she didn't say that in the last debate.
Yeah. She's
If
going
this
pretty
were
high on
just
this one, like
about
no
one
joke.
video, maybe what he's saying tonight would be understandable. Everyone can draw their own
Trump,
conclusions at this
understandable.
point about whether or not the man in the video or the man on the stage respects women. But he
Look at his
never
eyes.
apologizes
Puppy
for
dog
anything
eyes.
to anyone. He never apologized to Mr. and Mrs. Khan family, whose son, Captain Khan, died in the line of duty in Iraq. And Donald
Yeah.
insulted and attacked
He's
them
rude.
She's just
for weeks
bringing it
over their
all
religion.
out, man.
Oh, wow.
He never apologized to the distinguished federal judge who was born in Indiana. But Donald said he couldn't be trusted to be a judge because his parents were, quote, Mexican.
I mean, I'm pretty sure
He
they
never
were Mexican.
apologized
Quoted Mexican.
for the image
Quote.
of mine on television and our
Wait, were they
children
not
watching.
Mexican?
And he never apologized
No, I'm pretty
for
sure
the
they were
racist
Mexican.
So
lie
why? Okay.
that President Obama was not born in the United States.
Okay,
America. He
Hillary,
owes the
okay.
president an apology.
Let's talk
He owes
about
our
that lie a
country
little.
An apology.
I think that's.
And responsibility.
It
for
would have
his
been
act.
just easier to just talk about the video. Like,
That's an apology because, as you know very well, your campaign, Sidney Blumenthal, he's another
oh my gosh, he's.
one that
Sidney Blumenthal
I
also
guess
called him.
the birther movement is kind of better to talk about compared to the video, but still, like, talk about something where where you're stronger, Trump.
Like what?
Like trade. Trade, he can argue against her.
Yeah.
Number 2, Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama.
I've gotten to see the commercials that they did on you. And I've gotten to see some of the most vicious commercials I've ever seen
Oh, I have a flashlight.
of Michelle Obama talking about you, Hillary.
Ooh.
So you talk about friend, go back and take a look at those commercials. A race where you lost, fair and square.
Oh my gosh.
There's race where you won, but not fair and square, in my opinion.
Not fair
All
and
you have to do is take a
square,
look at
man.
WikiLeaks and just see what they said about Bernie Sanders and see what Deborah Wasserman Schultz had in mind. Because Bernie Sanders, between superdelegates and Deborah Wasserman Schultz, he never had a chance. And I was so surprised to see him.
Oh, now he's
sign
quoting to
on with the
Bernie
devil.
voters.
You talk about apology. I think the one you should really be apologizing for, and the thing that you should be apologizing for, are the 33,000 emails that you deleted and that you acid washed.
Oh
And then
my
the
gosh.
emails and other things last week
He's talking about the emails.
and are now missing.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I didn't think I'd say this, but I'm going to say it.
Oh
I
no.
hate to say it. But if I win, I am going to instruct my Attorney General, Special Prosecutor,
Oh.
to look into your situation because it has never
Oh,
been
that's
so
just
many-
low,
Isn't
man.
that just abuse of power? Or
That is actually fairly much an abuse of power. You can't say
you can't just
when you
make a
win,
special
you're going to get rid of
prosecutor.
the opponent. You can't send the judiciary to do that. That is such
So
an
much an
abuse.
abuse of power. He's a president, not a dictator.
I mean, I wouldn't agree with that, but
After getting the subpoena, you delete 30 emails.
look at the look she's giving him.
Or bleach them, as you would say, a very
Bleach
expensive
them.
process.
This is a train wreck. Oh my gosh.
Prosecute, look into it because you know
I
what?
knew
People
he's
have-
planning this.
their
there was no
lives
way
He's
he
not even a
wasn't
good debater. If he was a good debater, he'd get off of this and talk about trade.
You
Yeah.
understand?
Secretary Clinton, I want to follow up on that. I'm going to let you talk about it.
Because everything he just said is absolutely false, but I'm not surprised. In the first debate,
Oh,
In the first, the audience needs to
I
calm
told
down here.
people that it was being impossible to be fact-checking.
we don't have to
Donald
calm down
all the
because we're
time.
not
I never get
there.
to talk about anything I want, how we're going to really make lives better for people. Go to HillaryClinton.com. We have literally Trump. You can fact check him in real time. Last time,
Oh my
the first debate, we had millions of people fact checking. So I expect we'll have
Let's go
millions
look at some
more
fact-checking right now.
because
Wow.
it is. It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Keep up with his lies, though. That's hard.
My mom's looking down giggling at me about the jail comment. Wow.
We want to remind the audience to please not talk out loud. Please.
Andrew,
Oh my gosh, it's Lester Holt again.
If you want to follow up on
Mr.
emails, you said
Lester.
your handling of your emails was a mistake. You disagreed with FBI Director James Comey, calling your handling of classified information, quote, extremely careless. The
Okay,
FBI
I'm
said
looking
that
at
there
some
were
real-time
110
fact-checking right here.
classified emails
Yeah.
that were exchanged, 8 of which were top secret.
Fact
That
check.
it was possible
The
hostile
rape
actors to
case.
gain access to those emails. You don't call that extremely careless?
Well, Martha, first let me say, and I've said it before, but I'll repeat it because I want everyone to hear it. That was a mistake, and I take responsibility for using a personal email
Just
account.
on the
Obviously, if I
on
were
the
to do it
defending
over
the
again,
rapist
I would
case,
not. I'm not making any
she was
excuses.
working for an
It was a mistake,
sort of
and I
a legal
am very,
aid clinic.
sorry about that,
She was
but I
placed with
think
the
it's also
man, and
important,
she said she wasn't comfortable with
to
it, but
point
it was her
out
job,
where
and I guess she was a good
there are
lawyer.
some misleading
Okay,
accusations
like-
from critics and others.
That's
After
sometimes
a
that's
year-long-
something that a lawyer has to do.
Yeah.
That anyone hacked the server I was using,
And
there
the
is
U.S.
no
government just got
evidence
regular hack.
that
Donald Trump
anyone
is evidence.
point to at
Yeah.
all. Anyone who
Where's
says
Jesse?
otherwise, any classified material ended up in the wrong hands. I take classified materials very seriously. And I always have. When I was on the Senate Armed
Oh, don't
Services
say
Committee,
that.
I was privy to a lot of classified material. Obviously, as Secretary of State, I had some of the most important secrets that we possess, such as going after bin Laden. So I am very committed to taking classified information
I want to
seriously.
write a
And as
limerick
I said,
about
there is
this.
no evidence that any classified
He's gonna say, yeah, you took it
information-
so seriously, you decided to make a private email server.
She didn't know the letter C in the document. Right? She didn't even know what that letter meant. You know, it's amazing. I'm watching
The C
Hillary go
word,
over facts,
classified.
and she's going after fact to fact.
Wow.
And she's lying again because she said she.
Lion
You know, what she did with
Hillary.
the email. You think it was fine to delete 33,000 emails? I don't think so. She said the 33,000 emails had to do with her daughter's wedding, number one, and the yoga class. Well, maybe we'll give three or 4 or 5 or something. 33,000 emails deleted. And now she's saying
Wait, what?
it was
Is this what she said?
after getting a subpoena. That wasn't before. That was after. She got it from the United States Congress. And I'll be honest, I am so disappointed in congressmen, including Republicans, for allowing this to happen. Our Justice Department, where her husband goes onto the back of an airplane for 39 minutes, talks to the Attorney General days before a ruling is going to be made on her case. But for you to say that there was nothing wrong with you deleting 39,000 emails.
33,000. Get your numbers right.
Oh my
Trump.
God. You just added
You
emails
throw out
now.
numbers occasionally. You need to throw the right numbers.
We want to give the audience a chance here.
Jail, let alone after getting a subpoena from the
Trump doesn't want to listen to the people.
We have to move on to an audience question.
Look, it's just not true. And so please
Oh,
go
you didn't delete them?
Allow her to respond.
emails, not official
Go to her
emails,
website.
not- well, we
Okay.
turned over 35,000,
I'll do it,
so
Hillary.
it was-
I'll do it.
Please allow her to respond. She didn't talk while you talked.
Ooh.
And I did it in the first debate, and I'm going to try not to in this debate because I'd like to get to the questions that the people have brought here
HillaryClinton.com.
tonight to talk
Look
to us
at
about.
the things. A bunch of Trump supporters are making angry faces on her emails.
Okay, I know you're into big diversion tonight. Anything to avoid talking about your campaign and the way it's exploding and the way Republicans are leaving you. But let's
see
at
what
least
happens.
focus
Allow her
on
to
some of
respond.
He
the
literally
issues
said that.
people care about tonight. Let's get to their question.
We have a question here from Ken Karpowitz. He has a question about healthcare. Ken?
I'd like to know, Anderson, why aren't you bringing up the emails? I'd like to know. Why aren't you
We
getting
brought up
to
the
bottom?
emails.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. And it hasn't been finished at all.
Ken Karpowitz has a question.
It's nice to 1 on 3. Thank you.
God.
Affordable Care Act.
That was a
known
smart
as
thing for him to do, to be honest. But
not affordable. Premiums have gone up, deductibles have gone up, co-pays have gone up, prescriptions have gone up, and the coverage has gone down.
Oh.
What will you do to bring the costs down and make coverage better?
That first one goes to Secretary Clinton because you started out the last one to the audience.
He wants to start. He can
What's he doing? Where's he walking?
Oh!
Do you hear that
Wait, what is he
crowd?
doing?
Alon was
Okay.
about to say he's going to solve it by repealing it and getting rid of the Affordable Care Act. And I'm going to fix it because I agree with you. Premiums have gotten too high, co-pays,
Wow.
deductibles, prescription drug costs. And I've laid out a series of actions that we can take to try to get those costs down. But here's what I don't want people to forget when we're talking about reining in the costs, which has to be the highest priority of the next president. When the Affordable Care Act passed, it wasn't just that 20 million people got insurance who didn't have it before, but that in and of itself was a good thing. I meet these people all the time and they tell me what a difference having that insurance meant to them and their families. But everybody else, the 170 million of us who get health insurance through our employers, number one, insurance companies can't deny you coverage because of a pre-existing condition. Number two, no lifetime limits, which is a big deal if you have serious health problems. Number three, women can't be charged more than men for our health insurance, which is the way it used to be before the Affordable Care Act. Number four,
Right.
if you're under 26 and your parents have a policy, you can be on that policy until the age of 26, something that didn't happen before. So I want very much to save what works and is good about the Affordable Care Act. But we've got to get costs down. We've got to provide some additional help to small businesses so that they can afford to provide health insurance.
Small businesses.
We repeal it as
Wow.
Donald has proposed.
This
and
Hillary
start over
lady,
again.
she's just
All
going
of
for
those
everyone
benefits
tonight.
I just
Wow.
mentioned are lost to everybody, not just people who get their health insurance on the exchange. And then we would have to start all over again. Right now, we are at 90% health
So
insurance.
I think what she
coverage. That's
just
the highest
said
we've
is
ever
that
been
it's a
in our
little
country.
screwed up, but she's
So
not
I
going to
want us
destroy
get
it.
to 100%.
Yeah, because it doesn't
down.
make sense to destroy it.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
It is such a great question, and it's maybe the question I get
Such a great
almost
question.
more than anything else outside of defense. Obamacare is a disaster.
Ooh.
We all know it. It's going up at numbers that nobody's ever seen worldwide. Nobody's ever seen numbers like this for health.
What numbers?
First, he's 33,039, 59%.
120% of healthcare participants don't have healthcare.
Now he just has numbers. I like this. At least he's not being dishonest with his numbers. He's just saying that the numbers are bad.
Expensive for the person that has it.
I'm just gonna Google, are the numbers bad?
Numbers, man.
We have to repeal it and replace it with something absolutely much less expensive and something that works.
You
Where
see,
you
when
can
Trump
actually-
says
Oh yeah,
this,
you
I
wouldn't
mean,
say the how much funding would
it's
be in
not,
there.
it's not like ISIS isn't going to find out. He can say what he wants to do.
because Obama and
You just can't say we're going to have a better thing, because it's hard to just
that gives the insurance
make a better
companies
thing,
essentially monopolies.
especially when we have this much entrenched in the current system.
Healthcare plan. She wants to go to the healthcare plan, which would be a disaster. So
Why?
let's go to Canada. Have you ever
Canada
heard of
isn't that much of a
when they do
disaster,
the
except
big
people just can't
operation,
get
when
healthcare
something
for
happens,
months.
They come into the United States in many cases because their system is so slow. It's
Okay, well,
it's
let's just take a quick
catastrophic
break
in
and discuss
certain ways.
this.
But she wants to
Okay,
Do
go
you think the free market or the government should be in charge of
to
healthcare?
everything.
In my opinion, the government. It's just for the simple fact of free market has been tested
What's going
and
on?
it doesn't work. They raise
But let's say we had a
premiums,
really free market that's partially regulated by the government. Like, let's say a better Obamacare. Can we agree on that alone?
Yeah, that's a compromise. In my opinion, you got to start a compromise at one end and then compromise.
Wait, stop. Anderson.
His premiums double, coverage is cut in half. Was he mistaken, or was his mistake simply telling the truth?
No, I mean, he clarified what he meant, and it's very clear. Look, we are in a situation in our country where if we were to start all over again, we might come up with a different system. But we have an employer-based system. That's where the vast majority of people get their health care. And the Affordable Care Act was meant to try to fill the gap between people who were too poor and couldn't put together any resources to afford health care.
Too
namely
poor.
people on
I think that's
Medicaid.
going to make
Obviously,
fun of.
Medicare, which is a single
It's gonna
payer
end up on a
system,
meme.
which takes care of our
Alon, do you want to
elderly,
join
does
me
a
in
great
making
job
memes?
doing it, by
So
the
we make
way.
memes.
I can't make memes, man.
People were working but didn't have the
I have
money
to figure
to
this
afford
meme out. If you are a
insurance
single
and
viewer
didn't
right
have
now,
an employer or
could you make us a
anything else to help
meme?
them.
Send it
That
to
was
us
swap that the
any
Obamacare,
East Side email. We'll make
approach
sure
was to
that
take.
that gets
And
to
like
the
I said,
stream
20 million people now
if
have health
you're
insurance.
watching.
So if we just rip it up and throw it away, what Donald's not telling you is we just turn it back to the insurance companies the way it used to be. And that means the insurance companies get to do pretty much whatever they want, including saying, look, I'm sorry, you've got diabetes, you had cancer,
Diabetes.
your child has
Time's
asthma,
up.
you may not be able to have insurance because you can't afford it. So let's fix what's broken about it, but let's not throw it away and give it all back to the insurance
Yeah, I
companies.
Let me
looked
follow
up
up with
his
you.
plan. It's just free market everything.
Just one thing.
Yeah.
First of all, Hillary, everything's broken about it. Everything.
Oh my
Everything.
gosh! Specify, please.
You know what? If there's one thing that's not broken, I think it's the cause. It was a good cause. It was something that was supposed to work well.
You also said you want to make coverage accessible for people with pre-existing conditions. How do you force insurance companies to do that? You're no longer mandating that everyone get insurance.
You're going to have a plan.
What does that mean?
Well, I'll tell you what it means.
Are
You're
you?
going to have a plan. You're
Oh,
going to have so much competition.
so much.
Oh my
competition.
god! I am.
to come.
Are you going to have a mandate that Americans have to have health insurance?
President Obama, by keeping those lines, the boundary lines around each state, and it was almost gone until just very toward the end of the passage of Obamacare, which, by the way, was a fraud. You know that because
He doesn't know that. Nobody knows that.
He said it was
I feel like
fraud.
Obamacare wasn't a fraud.
President Obama said
There's
it was
easier ways to
done.
commit
The whole
fraud,
thing's a fraud.
like insider trading.
But when we
Or
get
like
rid of
anything that Donald Trump did, if you look into his tax return.
That was a good one. That was a good one. That was very sick.
protected. And Republicans feel this way, believe it or not, and strongly this way. We're going to block grant into the states. We're going to block
we
grant
lost our
into
viewer again.
Medicaid into
Thank
the
you, Mr.
states so that we will be able to take care of people without the necessary
Anderson,
funds to take
politely
care of
cutting him
themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Trump.
We now go to Gurba Hamid with a question for both candidates.
Hi. There are 3.3 million Muslims in the United States, and I'm one of them. You've mentioned
I think
working
Trump's
with
sweating
Muslim
now.
nations, but with Islamophobia on the rise, how will you help people like me deal with the consequences of being labeled as a threat to the country after the election is over?
Mr. Trump, you're first.
Well, you're right about Islamophobia, and that's a shame.
Aw.
One thing we have to do is we have to make sure that, because there is a problem. I mean, whether we like it or not, and we can be very politically correct, whether we like it or not, there is a problem. And we have to be sure that Muslims come in and report when they see something going on. When they see hatred going on, they have to report it. As an example, in San
Okay.
Wait, what?
He's
I
not-
thought that was Hillary Clinton's policy position.
of the two people that killed
This
14
isn't
and
an
wounded
answer to the question either. The question is, how do we stop Islamophobia? This is, how do we get Muslims?
He said, yeah, it's a problem. Now, let me talk about a different thing.
And you know, there's always a reason for.
I mean,
everything.
okay, so the thing is, in cases where it's like prejudice, I mean, how do you really just like stop people from thinking? But this is the opposite. We know that Trump's plan is just to get rid of Muslims, exclude them more from the community.
And she won't even mention the word, and nor will President Obama.
He's literally barraging a Muslim about the terribleness
You have to be
of
able to
Muslims.
state what
Yeah.
the problem is, or at least
Oh,
the name.
I don't know how she's not shouting at him right now.
The
They
name-
won't say the name
The
though.
name is there. It's radical Islamic terror, and before
Terror.
you solve it, you have to say the name.
Secretary Clinton.
Well, thank you for asking your question. And I've heard this question from a lot of Muslim Americans across our country. Because unfortunately, there's been a
You know,
lot
she
of
looks- I
very
forget her name,
divisive,
the woman who
dark
asked the last
things said
question.
about
She looks
Muslims.
very,
And
I don't know,
even
bored by
someone like
this.
Captain Khan, the young man who sacrificed himself defending
Khan.
our country in the United States Army, has been subject to attack by Donald. I want to say just a couple of things. First, we've had Muslims in America since George Washington, and we've had many successful Muslims. We just lost a particularly well-known one with Muhammad Ali.
I wouldn't have guessed he was a Muslim.
My
He's
vision
I
actually
just
of
found
America
that out.
is
Islamophobia, unlike Trump.
everyone has
Yeah.
a place. If you're willing to work hard, you do your part, you contribute to the community.
That's such a Republican talking point, and it's a good one.
That's what we want children
And
as
she's
Yeah.
saying it,
children.
not Trump.
Also very
Yeah.
short-sighted and
It's
even
because Trump is
dangerous
more of a
to
nativist
be
than
engaging in the
anything.
kind of demagogic rhetoric that Donald has about Muslims. We need American Muslims to be part of our eyes and ears on our front lines.
You
I've
see,
worked
even
with
if
a
they
lot
are
of
saying the
different
same thing, the
Muslim
way she's
groups
saying it is a
around
lot
America.
nicer.
I've
Because
met
she's
with a lot of
addressing the question and then mentioning it as a side, not just
Yeah.
completely ignoring the question.
and part of our country, part of our homeland security, and that's what I want to see. It's also important
You see, that was
to
brilliantly
defeat
weaved,
ISIS,
saying
to do
that
so in a coalition
using-
with majority
if American
Muslim nations.
Muslims
Now,
stand
a
up
lot
to
of those nations
to,
are hearing what Donald says and wondering,
extremism, then they will be recognized as
this is a
you know,
gift to ISIS
strong
and the
community
terrorists,
members. It's,
violent jihadist terrorists. We
ooh.
are not at war with Islam. And it is a mistake, and it plays into the hands of the terrorists to act as though we are. So I want a country where citizens like you and your family are just as welcome as anyone else.
Thank you, Secretary
That's such a
Clinton.
good answer.
You said this. Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
Wow.
No choice. We have no choice.
We have no choice.
Said this week that the Muslim ban is no longer your position. Is that correct? And if it
Flippy
is, was it a
Donald.
mistake to have a religious test?
First of all, Captain Khan is an American hero. And
That wasn't his
President-
position.
He's not a
as
hero
player.
because he got shot.
because
I like people who win.
voted for the war, I would not have had our people in Iraq. Iraq was a disaster. So he would have been alive today.
But you were for the Iraq War.
Yeah.
In some form has
I'm not gonna
morphed
believe
into
Sean
a
Hannity.
extreme
Sean
betting
Hannity.
from
He's
certain
been
areas of
like
Hillary Clinton
tweet fighting with people.
wants to
I
allow-
was on Twitter
And
earlier.
why did it morph
I wanna
into
tweet
that?
Sean
no,
Hannity.
Did you, no, answer the question.
Why
You
do you-
still I do.
me all the time. What are you interrupt her?
Please
I'm gonna tweet at
explain
Sean Hannity,
whether or not
maybe.
the Muslim ban
or not.
still stands.
It's
We don't have any viewers to ask.
extreme
Aw,
vetting. We are going to areas like Syria where they're coming in
Sean Hannity.
tens of thousands because of Barack Obama, and Hillary Clinton wants to allow a 550% increase over Obama. People are coming into our country like we have no idea who they are.
We
where
do
they-
though. We do by the UN, but like how many? Like 5 agencies in the UN, like 6 agencies in the US, and then private interviews by each agency. We know who's coming here.
I believe in having other people pay for them as an example.
Other people pay for them. I mean,
Carrying their weight.
we can't have Syria pay for them
They take care of
because
people.
what part of Syria is gonna pay for them?
Problems this
We-
country
we-
has and all of the problems that you see going on.
There's so much going.
Hundreds of thousands of people coming in from Syria where we know nothing about them.
Okay, we don't have hundreds of thousands of people in the U.S. I need to bring up the stats right now. I think it's been hundreds of thousands
Let me ask you
like,
about that,
total.
because you have asked for an increase from 10
Syrians?
to
I think
65,000.
that there probably are.
Okay, the number in the U.S. is 10,000.
Oh.
10,000 has been pledged, but 1,285 have arrived.
I will not let anyone into our country that I think poses a risk to us.
Well, her
Thank
head
you.
got into the other box. How'd that happen?
Refugees
Yeah.
And children. Think of
Oh.
that picture you saw of that 4-year-old boy with the blood on his forehead because he'd been bombed by the Russian.
This vaguely
and Syrian
reminds me
Air
of when Carly
Forces.
Fiorina started talking
There
about
are children
infant limbs.
suffering in
Yeah,
this
only that one thing is a lie and another thing is true.
country
Yeah.
because of Russian
This is the picture
aggression.
that started the
And
Josh.
we need to do our part
turned it
I
into
think
a
she's having an
crisis
Olympic
instead of
moment.
load that Europe and others are. But we
sorry guys.
that
For a
as
moment
it
right here.
needs from our professionals,
Oh,
our
Gary,
intelligence experts, and
my
others.
boy.
But it is important for us as a policy, not to say, as Donald has said, we're going to ban people based on a religion. How do you do that? We are a country founded on religious freedom and liberty.
Thank you.
How do we do what he has advocated without causing great
She's sounding very
distress
reasonable.
within our own country?
And she's
Are we
not
going to
sounding politically correct too. She's like shouting, not understanding what the heck he's saying.
Yeah.
Like she's being very strong in her opinion, which is
So
good.
I
Yeah.
thought that what he said was extremely
She's got
unwise
like
and
rhetoric.
even dangerous. And indeed, you can look at the propaganda on a lot of the terrorist sites. And what Donald Trump says
But you
about
can look at terrorist sites.
Jews to
Yes, of course you
recruit
can.
Why aren't they down?
fighters.
Oh yeah, because they're like
want to
FBI,
create.
us, like
And the final thing I would
conducts
say, this is
investigations
the
ISIS
about them
has
and keeps
time
them.
that he's denied before the war in Iraq. We have it on tape. The entire press corps has looked at it.
Sean Hannity has it.
Sean Hannity.
It's called Sean Hannity.
So please, you go to HillaryClinton.com and you can
Wait,
see
you're
it.
gonna talk about Sean Hannity?
We need to hear this.
And you voted for it, and you shouldn't have. Well, I just
There's too much fact checking on that. I'd like to move on to an online question.
she just went about 25 seconds over her time.
Aw.
Respond to this?
Yeah, I have to admit that Trump gets time.
In terms of having people come into our country, we have many criminal illegal aliens. When we want to send them back to their country says we don't want them. In some cases, they're murderers, drug lords,
But there are more non-Mexican drug lords / drug dealers than there are Mexican.
Also mention the one group he did not list that he usually lists.
and some very bad people.
He did not list
He
rapists
doesn't,
this
he
time.
doesn't want to be associated with that, considering the last video.
Because we know that some of them in the United States are
Good people.
sort of American.
Our southern border at a record clip, and it shouldn't be allowed to happen. ICE just because they've never done.
There are more people coming to the U.S. than there are people leaving. That's a statistic against what he just said right now.
Also, we have more Americans going to Mexico than we have Mexicans to America.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I wasn't specific enough. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Which Americans are even going?
No, probably Mexicans are leaving this country.
I want to move on. This
They
next
had
question
foresight.
comes from the public through the Bipartisan Open Debate Coalition's online forum where Americans submitted questions that generated millions of votes. This question involves WikiLeaks' release of purported excerpts of Secretary Clinton's paid speeches.
Okay, wait, so I read some of those. They're very
And
tame.
one line in particular in which you, Secretary Clinton, reported to say you need both a public and private position on certain issues.
I mean, that's true.
So, Virginia
Yeah.
You're not going to do a
asks, is it
negotiation telling the public every single step of it. You're not going to get anywhere.
acceptable for a politician to have a private stance on issues? Secretary Clinton, well, your 2 minutes.
Right. As I recall, that was something I said about Abraham Lincoln after seeing the
Right before I
Stevens
said I praised his emancipation of the slaves.
It was a master class watching President Lincoln Congress to approve the 13th Amendment. It was principled and it was strategic. And I was making the point that it is hard sometimes to get the Congress to do what you want to do, and you have to keep working at it. And yes, President Lincoln was trying to convince some people. He used some arguments. Convincing other people, he used other arguments. That was a great, I thought, a great display of presidential leadership.
Okay, so
Wait, what? No, that's
I
not,
didn't know
that's
this
not
is
the
going.
response. You say sometimes when people complain about stuff too much, it gets in the middle of negotiations. You can't come up with anything. That's your response. Done. He's like, oh yeah, the people. Sometimes people need to know about stuff, and sometimes we need to lie to them. What?
On American accounts to influence our election. And WikiLeaks is part of that, as are other sites where the Russians
The
have
Russians.
information. We don't even know if it's
I
accurate.
love those
information,
guys.
And then they
Great
put it out.
people. They love
For
transparency.
every leak that Putin does on Clinton, somehow somebody gets a leak on Trump.
Adversary
Putin's efforts are not good enough.
don't influence the outcome of the election. And believe me, they're not doing it to get me elected. They're doing it to try to influence the election for Donald Trump. Now, maybe because he has praised Putin, maybe because he says he
Putin.
agrees with a lot
You know,
of what Putin wants
I think
to
we
do.
could
Maybe
really
because
use
wait, is she going to talk about tax returns?
But
Yeah.
we deserve
We could use Putin
answers.
in the U.S. I think we
And
could really
should
use him.
demand that Donald release
He's the sort of
all
man we
his
need.
tax returns so that people can see what are entanglements and the financial
We're going to
relationship
get to that later.
has
Secretary
with Russia.
Clinton.
Well, they're gonna get to it later.
Yeah, she was getting it.
Because so ridiculous. Look, now she's blaming. She got caught in a total lie. Her papers went out to all her friends at the banks, Goldman Sachs, and everybody else. And she
Okay,
said
to be
things
fair,
when
we
things
have made fun of
just
Goldman
came out.
Sachs before.
And
Yeah, I mean, nobody's arguing that Clinton's good. Nobody's saying, yeah, you should totally be bought out by Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
Okay, honest Abe never lied. That's the good thing. That's the big difference between Abraham Lincoln and
I thought that was George Washington that never lied.
Big difference. We're talking about some
No, it's called Honest Abe.
Yeah.
As far
Oh,
as
okay, we have two
other
presidents
elements
that
of
were
what she
on.
was saying, I don't know, Putin.
That's
I
crazy.
think it would be great if we got along with Russia.
Wait, he doesn't know Putin? He said he did know Putin.
But I don't know Putin. But I noticed
I would like to
anytime
know
anything
Putin.
wrong
I thought he
happens,
did know Putin. Didn't he say he knew
What's
Putin
the quick
before?
game? You can ask Putin of one favor of him. What do you
but
pick
they
and
always blame
why?
Russia. And the reason they blame Russia,
Putin, step down.
Russia. I know nothing
I want
about
Putin
Russia.
to lend me his
I know about
tanks.
Russia, but I know nothing about workings in Russia. I don't deal there. I have no businesses there. I have no loans from Russia.
You see, we don't know that though. Trump, we need to know if you have Russian loans.
She'll like, oh, then if you don't have any loans from Russia, why would you not show your tax returns?
We need his tax returns.
Chose me to do the old post office between the White House and Congress. Chose me to do the
Like,
old post office.
they
One of
chose
the
him to do a
primary things, in
post
fact,
office.
Perhaps the primary thing was balance.
They're saying the post office is going to be a flop, I think. That's what they said. I'm not 100% sure about that.
I mean, how did the post office not become a flop? It's a post office.
Well, if it's in the middle of Washington, D.C., that's the only one that might not become a flop.
If they made an email server, maybe that would. Oh, too soon. I'm sorry.
Are you kidding? You're not allowed to go against the almighty Hillary.
Many of the people that are giving her all this money that she could do any more commercials than me took massive deductions.
Okay, one thing. Have you noticed he's not doing faces at all tonight?
Yeah.
But
I think he.
Barely any faces.
Yeah.
turns out
Mr. Trump.
I mean, he's attacking her where it hurts. That was a good attack.
Question. Awesome. Spencer?
Let's see.
Good evening. My question is, what specific tax provisions will you change to ensure the wealthiest Americans pay their fair share in taxes?
Oh,
Trump, you have 2 minutes.
well, one thing
Oh,
we do is get rid of carried
that
interest.
that was funny.
One of the greatest provisions for people like me, to be honest with you.
Carried interest. It's carried.
And she could have done this years ago, by the way. She was a United States Senator. She complains that Donald Trump took advantage of the tax code. Well, why didn't she change it? Why didn't you change it when you were a senator? The reason you didn't is that all your friends take the same advantage that I do. And I do. There are provisions in the tax code that, frankly, we could change.
He's taking that comment very well when it was obviously a direct attack on him not paying taxes.
And I say that about a lot of things. You know, I've heard Hillary complaining about so many different things over the years.
Oh, don't say that.
For 30 years, she's been doing this stuff.
She has not been there for 30
She
years.
has been.
We've done this math. It's like 12 years where she could really do anything except have like a fitness initiative.
Because we have corporations, massive corporations and little ones. Little ones can't form. We're getting rid of regulations, which goes hand in hand with the lowering of the taxes. But we're bringing the tax rate down from 35% to 15%.
So how is that?
But he's
something
lowering it for
paying
the
their-
top 1%. He was talking about bringing up taxes for the top 1%.
Hillary Clinton is raising your taxes, folks. You can look at me. She's raising your taxes
Oh my God.
really high.
That argument doesn't work anymore, or does it? Maybe it does work.
That
Maybe
makes a
people
big
still
difference.
believe
We
in
are
that
going to
argument.
we have no growth in this country. There's no growth.
There is growth.
If China
We do have quite a bit of growth.
7%. It's like
Here, let's
national
just
catastrophe.
let me just Google U.S. growth.
Like no growth, and we're going lower, in my opinion. And
In his opinion,
so like just about the highest.
We do have high taxes, admittedly, but we also have a very pro-business environment aside from that. And the United States is recognized as the economic power of the world, making it a good place to do business.
The next question was, what specific tax provisions will change to ensure the wealthiest Americans pay their fair share of taxes?
Well, everything you've heard, not true. I'm sorry I have to keep saying this. but
GDP
it's an
grew by
accurate-
1.4%.
And it is sort of amusing to hear somebody who hasn't paid federal income taxes in maybe 20 years talking about what he's going to do. But I'll tell you what he's going to do.
Oh, mic drop.
The wealthy and corporations, the biggest tax cuts they've ever had, more than the Bush tax cuts by at least a factor of 2. Donald always takes care of Donald and people like Donald, and this would be
Isn't she like a
massive
people
gift.
like Donald in this
And
case?
indeed, the
Yeah.
way that he tax cuts would end up raising taxes on middle-class families, millions of middle-class families. Now, here's what I want to do. I have said Nobody who makes less than $250,000 a year, and that's the vast majority of Americans, as you know,
That is a very
will have
vast
their taxes
majority.
raised, because I think we've got to go where the money is, and the money is with people who've taken advantage of every single break in the tax code. And yes, when I was a senator, I did vote to close corporate loopholes. I voted to close, I think, one of the
But
loopholes.
you also voted to create loopholes.
$1 billion loss that enabled him to avoid paying taxes. I want to have a tax on people making $1 million. That's called the Buffett rule. Yes, Warren Buffett is the one who's gone out and said somebody like him should not be paying a lower tax rate than his secretary. I want to have a surcharge on incomes above $5 million. We have to make up for lost times, because I want to invest in you. I want to invest in hardworking families. And I
This
think
is what happens because Bernie Sanders stays in the race like an extra 2 months. She doubts these sort of policies.
on to the
indeed.
top. And we need to reverse that. Donald, who paid zero in taxes, zero for our vets, zero for our military, zero for health and education. That is
We
wrong.
discussed this in the
And
last
we're going to
Goldfinger
make sure
Sodcast,
that
didn't we?
Nobody, no corporation
Yeah.
and no individual
At
can
times.
get away without paying his fair share to
I want to give
support our country.
Mr. Trump, I
There
want to
aren't
give
really that many issues where Donald Trump is better than her at.
Yeah.
Number one issue with Facebook. For the first time in the campaign, the New York Times published 3 pages of your 1995 tax return. They show you claimed a $960 million loss, which means you couldn't avoid
So he's not rich and
federal
he's not a good
taxes.
businessman.
And he doesn't pay
And he doesn't-
taxes.
Real estate
I
taxes,
think everything
taxes.
collapsed with that.
Have not answered those.
Aside from his moral characteristics, and then, you know,
Those collapse later on.
yes.
Of course I do. And so do all of her donors, or most of her donors. I know many of her donors. Her donors took massive tax
Well,
write-offs.
if you know the donors, then
Appreciation and other things that Hillary, as a senator, allowed. She'll always allow it, because the people that give her all this money, they want it. Yeah, I understand the tax code better than anybody that's ever run for president.
I don't know. I think
no,
Hillary
you
is.
don't. You're
Hillary
not.
Clinton friends that want all of these provisions, including they want the carried interest provision, which is very important to Wall Street people, but they really want the carried interest provision, which I believe Hillary's leaving. It's very interesting why she's leaving carried interest, but I will tell you that, number one, I pay tremendous numbers of taxes. I absolutely
Show us your taxes!
George Soros.
Oh, I scared someone away.
Many of the other people that Hillary is getting money from. Now, I won't mention their names because they're rich, but they're not famous, so we won't make them famous. So
I would like to hear their names if you can.
Avoided paying personal federal income tax.
pay tax, and I pay federal tax too.
Then show us the tax returns.
I just want to see them, man. It's not that hard. I just want to see your tax return.
If she had a problem for 30 years,
I'll show you my
she's
tax
doing this, and
returns.
say
I
it
don't
all
have
the time.
any.
She talks about health care.
Because I'm a
Why didn't she
kid.
do something about it? She talks about taxes. Why didn't she do something about it? She doesn't do anything.
The thing is,
about
she's in a
anything
position
other than talk.
to
With
make
her,
those
it's
changes
all talk
now.
and no action.
In the past,
And again, Bernie Sanders has really bad judgment. She has made bad judgment not only on taxes, she's made bad judgments on Libya, on Syria.
Oh,
on Iraq.
Benghazi's.
I mean,
That's
her and
true.
Obama,
Well, he has also made bad judgments on Iraq.
the
Yeah.
vacuum they've left, that's why ISIS formed in the first place. They started from that little area, and now they're in 32 different nations.
They were formed in 2003, weren't they?
on Secretary Clinton.
Yeah. Then how has she been fighting them her entire adult
Well, here
life?
we go again.
I don't know.
Of getting rid of carried interest for years, starting when I was a senator from New York. But that's not the point here.
Why didn't you do it? Why didn't you do it?
Allow her to respond.
Because I was a senator with a Republican president.
Oh, really?
I will be the
Oh, really?
Oh, really? Yes, really.
I don't know. That sounds like an opinion.
You could have done it. You were not in effect.
Just allow her to respond. She didn't interrupt you.
You know, under our Constitution, presidents have something called veto power. Look, he has now said repeatedly, 30 years this and 30 years that. So let me talk about my 30 years in public service. I'm married.
Crush.
8 million kids every year have health insurance because when I was first lady, I worked with Democrats and Republicans to create the Children's Health Insurance
Those
Program.
people, you betcha they exercise every day.
Chance to be adopted because I worked to change our adoption and foster care system. After 9/11, I went to work with Republican mayor, governor, and president to rebuild New York and to get health care for our first responders who were suffering because they had run toward danger and gotten sickened by it. Hundreds of thousands of National Guard and Reserve members have health care because of work that I did. And children have safer medicines because I was able to pass a law that required the dosing to be more carefully done. When I was Secretary of State, I went around the world, country, but also advocating for women's rights to make sure that women had a decent
She's just
This is going to be a good song by debate.
and negotiated a treaty
Just
with
going
Traveled around
through credential.
the world.
legislation have my name on it.
Every
And the sponsor or
the
co-sponsor when I
legislation
was
wants to
senator for
get
8 years.
once you get the Hillary seg.
I worked very hard and was very proud to be reelected in New York by an even bigger margin than I had been elected the first time. And as president,
but,
I will take that work, that
playing devil's
bipartisan work,
advocate
that
here.
finding
She's
common
kind of
ground.
avoiding the question.
Trump is really the one from
To get
New
things
York.
done in Washington, and I've proven that I can.
I don't
And
know.
for 30 years,
I
I've
mean,
produced results.
He's
Secretary.
definitely the
We're
New
going to move on
York.
to Syria. Both of you have mentioned that.
Said a lot of things.
You,
I mean, I think we should
we can,
Allowed
no,
maybe
Mr. Trump, we're
this
going to
year.
go on. This is
Okay.
the audience.
disaster as a
Mr.
senator.
He
Trump,
he
we're
wants to
going
have all
move
these
on.
chances to rebuttal, but
The
he's not
heartbreaking
using
video
them.
of a Syrian boy named Amran sitting in an ambulance after being pulled from the rubble after an airstrike in Aleppo focused the world's attention on the horrors of the war in Syria, with 136 million views on Facebook alone. But there are much worse images coming out of Aleppo every day now, where in the past few weeks alone, 400 people have
You
been
have Gary
killed,
Johnson.
100 of
Oh my
them
gosh.
Getting every world
just
leader's
days ago, the State
name.
Department called for a war crimes investigation of the Syrian regime of
You have him
Bashar
forgetting what
al-Assad
Aleppo is. You also have a
Russia.
refugee crisis.
for their bombardment of Aleppo. So this next question comes from social media through Facebook. Diane from Pennsylvania
Who
asks,
uses
"If
Why didn't we?
Facebook?
Why don't we send any questions in?
Because I don't have any social medias.
Well, I run the social media, so I could have sent like I could have had like an East Side thing. I could have decided, yo, we have 2,000 students who wanted to ask this question
The
or
situation in
something.
Syria is catastrophic. And every day that goes by, we see the results of the regime. Assad, in partnership with the Iranians on the ground, the Russians in the air, bombarding
Russians in the
places,
air
in
sounds really
particular Aleppo,
scary.
where there are hundreds of thousands of people, probably about 250,000 still left. And there is a determined effort by the Russian Air Force to destroy Aleppo in order to eliminate the last of the Syrian rebels who are really holding out against the Assad regime. Russia hasn't paid any attention to ISIS. They're interested in keeping Assad in power. So I, when I was Secretary of State, advocated today a no-fly zone and safe zones. We need some leverage with the Russians because they're not going
You see, I
to
think Trump could really get us some
come to
leverage with the Russians. Like, I think he
for
could get us a lot of
diplomatic,
leverage.
resolution.
I don't think so. I think
If we were part of Russia, we would have the most leverage.
oh my gosh.
We could do
you
that
don't
for us.
understand.
Emphasize that what
Wait, this is what Hillary Clinton says on her website. Trump's tax cuts will give his own family billions. We don't know exactly how much until he releases his tax returns.
in Syria.
Oh.
Roasted.
She has witty people working for her. She has young, multiracial, witty people working for her.
On Putin and others, and I would do that as president. I think wherever we can cooperate with Russia, that's fine. And I did as Secretary of State. That's how we got a treaty reducing nuclear weapons. It's how we got the sanctions on Iran that put a lid on the Iranian nuclear program without firing.
Do you think he's going to
So
go
I would
on
go
her
to the
about the
negotiating table
Iran
with
deal
more
now?
leverage than we have now.
Or do you think
I don't know. He's very unpredictable.
I haven't heard him say any.
For
I don't think he
crimes,
said that much about
war
Iran
crimes
recently.
committed.
So
No, he has to choose the topics that hurt him.
Try to hold them accountable.
Thank you, Secretary
First
Clinton.
of all,
Mr.
she
Trump.
was there as Secretary of State with the so-called line in the sand, which,
No, I wasn't. I was gone. I hate to interrupt you,
but you
At
were in
some point-
contact, excuse me,
at some
you were,
point we need
you
to
were
do
in
some
total
fact-checking
contact
here.
with the White House. And perhaps, sadly, Obama probably still listened to you. I don't think he'd be listening to you. Obama draws the line in the
What?
left dead all over the world what happened. Now, with that being said, she talks tough against Russia, but our nuclear program has fallen way behind, and they've gone wild with their nuclear program. Not good. I
Not
know we
good.
shouldn't have
Not
allowed
good.
it to happen. It's new in terms of nuclear. We are old, we're tired, we're exhausted in terms of nuclear.
That's why we
What?
need to use it. Destroy the planet.
And
Wait, Josh. Talk
What?
again? I don't think I can hear you.
Who doesn't even know who the rebels are?
I say that we use all the
Whether it's
nukes.
in Iraq or we're arming people. And you know what happens? They end up being worse than the people. Look at what you did in Libya with Gaddafi.
I mean, that was a bad thing, I have to admit.
ISIS has
Yeah.
a good chunk of their oil. I'm sure you probably have heard that. It was a disaster. Because the fact is, almost everything she's done in foreign policy has been a mistake, and it's been a disaster. But if you look at Russia, just take a look at Russia, and look at what they did this week, where I agree she wasn't there, but possibly she's consulted.
Wait, what?
Sign a peace
I thought Obama doesn't listen to her.
did, and with Assad, and by the way, with Iran, who you made very powerful, with the dumbest deal perhaps I've ever
Wait,
seen.
what? He's getting so off topic.
With the 1.7 billion in cash, which is enough cash to fill up this.
Oh my god, he was talking about Russia, now Iran.
Iran now and Russia are now.
And now he's talking about Russia.
Fight. He wants to
Alone,
fight
I've
for
just
the
gotten
rebels.
word
There's
that our
only one
stream is
problem.
slightly
We don't know
behind.
who the
Is
rebels
it?
are.
I'm gonna fix
And
that.
one thing I have to say,
Your 2
I
minutes
don't
is up.
like Assad. So
Mr.
what's the
Trump, your
purpose?
2
And
minutes
one thing
is
I have
up.
to say,
Your 2
I
minutes
don't
is
like
up.
Oh, get us
Assad at all,
alive.
but Assad is
I'm
killing
sorry for this brief
ISIS.
interruption.
Russia.
If you were president, what
There
would
we
you
go.
do about Syria and the humanitarian crisis in Aleppo? And I want to remind you what your running mate said. He said provocations by Russia need to be met with American strength, and that if Russia continues to be involved in airstrikes,
I thought it was
along
the
with Syrian
humanitarian
government forces of
crisis.
Assad, the United States of America should be prepared to use military force to strike the military
I think
targets.
He
he
has to remind him
deserved.
about what Mike Pence said so that he doesn't contradict him. That's sad.
I disagree.
Mike Pence is a loser. He's,
Right now, Syria is fighting ISIS. We have people that want to fight
What's
both
Syria?
at the same time. But Syria is no longer
we have a
Syria.
lot of
Syria is
Syrias right now.
Russia.
We have
And it's
very
Iran. She made
we have one of the most
strong
fragmented Syria.
made
Wait, what was that
very
zoom in on her
powerful nation
face?
in a very rich
I don't
very
I just missed that. Right in.
We have to worry about ISIS before we can get too much more involved. She had a chance to do something with Syria. They had a chance, and that was the line.
What do you think
And
will
she-
happen if Aleppo falls?
I think Aleppo is a disaster
What do you
humanitarian
think
wise.
will happen?
He's not answering.
That if
He's having an Aleppo moment. It's the curse.
look at Mosul. The biggest problem I have with the
I need to check Gary's Twitter.
Mosul, they think a lot of the ISIS leaders are. We have announcements coming out of Washington and coming out of Iraq. We will be attacking Mosul in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Well, all of these bad leaders.
No, he hasn't
from ISIS
posted
are
anything
leaving
about.
Mosul. Why can't
There's a
they
little-
do it
there's also a
quietly?
moment.
Why can't they do the attack, make it a sneak attack?
Oh, he is live tweeting
After
this,
the
guys.
attack is made, inform the American public that we've knocked out the leaders. We've had a tremendous success. People leave. Why do they have to say we're going to be attacking Mosul within the next 4 to 6 weeks, which is what they're saying? How stupid is our country?
There are sometimes reasons the military does that.
I
Psychological
can't
warfare.
think of any. I can't think
I
of
don't think
any.
the moderator should
He
have
can't
to
think of any because he's too stupid to be able to think of any.
And admirals who
put
endorse it.
accusations alone. Do you have numbers on how stupid he is?
What, he thinks he's smarter than the nation's top generals?
He will have these generals.
Why can't they
They'll have he'll have very smart people implementing very good plans that they'll come up with.
out the leadership? Why would these people stay there? I've been reading now.
Tell
for
me what
weeks.
your
I've been
strategy
reading now
is.
for weeks about Mosul.
Hillary's starting to smile.
This is a train wreck.
What? Dear God,
She's not even like trying to like trigger him or anything. It's
which
just
is
oh
us.
oh
Our
He's
leadership.
triggering himself.
Also,
yeah.
Now, with these 200 admirals
Like, we
and
act-
generals,
This time we have good moderators. I have to say they're not letting them step on
General
anything.
Douglas
Here.
MacArthur, are spinning in their grave at the stupidity of what we're doing in the Middle East.
I'm going to go to Secretary Clinton. Secretary Clinton, you want Assad to know
At
who
face it,
advocated arming
she's like,
rebels,
she
but it looks
tightened
like
everything
that may be
that-
too late for Aleppo.
She's
You talk
embarrassed.
about diplomatic efforts; those have failed. Ceasefires have failed. Would you introduce the threat of U.S. military force beyond a no-fly zone against the Assad regime to back
I'm
up
interested in this.
diplomacy?
I would not use American ground forces in Syria. I think that would be a very serious mistake. I don't think American troops should be
Arthur Raditz is
occupying
like,
territory, which is what they would have to do as an occupying force. I don't think that is a smart strategy.
Oh, Trump just made a
I
face.
do think the
I haven't
use
seen one of
special
those for a
forces,
while.
which
I'm
we're
sort of
using,
excited they're back.
the use of enablers and trainers in Iraq, which has had some positive effects, are very much in our interests. And so I do support what is happening. But let
So
me
what would you do differently than President Obama is doing?
Martha, I hope that by the time if I'm
Everything.
by the time I am president,
this is
will
sad.
have
You see,
ISIS
with
out.
Hillary, it's not like
do
if
think
I'm president,
that
it's
there
when
is
I'm
a-
president.
She's trying to talk about policy, and he's like, everything. Like, what?
There are a lot of very important planning going on, and some of it is to signal to the Sunnis in the area as well as Kurdish Peshmerga fighters.
I wonder
that
if
we all need to be in
Trump
this,
could
and that
explain the
takes a
difference
lot of planning and
between
preparation.
Sunnis and
I would go
Shias.
after Baghdadi. I would
Go
specifically.
terrorists. We should ban him out of this country.
I think our targeting of Al Qaeda leaders, and I was involved in a lot of those operations, highly classified ones, made a difference. So I think that could help. I would also consider arming the Kurds. The Kurds have been our best partners in
Unless they get destroyed by the
Syria
Turks.
as well as Iraq. And I know there's a lot of concern about that in some circles, but I think they should have the equipment they need so that Kurdish and Arab fighters on the ground are the principal way that we take Raqqa after pushing ISIS out of Iraq.
Thank you very much. We're going to
You know,
move
funny,
on.
she went over a minute over, and you don't stop her. When I go 1 second over, it's like
You had many answers.
it's really very
Got a
interesting.
question over here from James Carter.
Wait, he's like, what you call him? The
Carter.
guy from the first Democratic presidential campaign.
like he's chafing.
No.
Oh, no, no, Jim Webb.
Can be a
Yeah, Jim Webb.
You're giving me time.
I need time.
Okay.
United States. That question begins for Mr. Trump.
What did he
I don't
ask?
know. Let's see.
Oops.
She calls our people deplorable, a large group,
Oh.
and irredeemable. I will be a president for all of our people, and I'll be a
Except
president
for
that will turn-
minority.
Muslims, Mexicans, African Americans, and basically any minority in this country.
No, he'll do good for the African Americans. They're living in hell right now. He can do better.
No, all he's saying is that they can't do worse, and I have a feeling he can make it worse.
We have levels of purgatory.
We lost our jobs. We lost our money. We lost our plants. It is a disaster. And now she wants to sign TPP, even though she says now she's for it. She called it the gold standard. And by the way, at the last debate, she lied because it turned out that she did say the gold standard, and she said she didn't say it. They actually said that she lied. Okay? And she lied, but she's
One lie by Hillary.
African.
I was looking at the
cities.
full breakdown of the fact checking.
She's been talking about her
Hillary,
fingers.
she's lied.
Yeah,
She talks
Like-
about it.
they both
Like,
lied. Nobody's saying by any
3/4
chance that she's a good candidate.
Yeah.
We're just saying that she's better.
Three-fourths of her statements are at least mostly true. But
What about
Trump is the exact opposite.
What, a fourth of true?
Yeah. You can't build a campaign completely on lies. You can build it partially on lies.
Well,
There's merit to that.
And I've been saying in big speeches where I have 20 and 30,000 people, what do you have to lose? It can't get any worse.
oh my
And she's
god.
been in the cities for 25 years. Nothing's ever happened. But
Yes.
it's
A lot of stuff has happened.
going to be talking. All of her
African
friends.
Americans were actually getting a lot of change under Bill Clinton. Their lives were getting better.
Not doing
And then Bush came around and it kind of
Mr. Trump, thank
But I will tell you, she's all talk. It doesn't get done. All you have to do is take a look at her
Now
Senate
they're
run. Take a
bowing to
look at
Trump
upstate
because
New
he
York.
keeps
2
going
minutes
on
is
about
up.
how they're not
Secretary
letting
Clinton,
it
2
deliver.
minutes.
Disaster.
You have 2 minutes, Secretary Clinton.
Well, 67% of the people voted to reelect me when I ran for my second term, and I was very proud and very humbled by that. Mr. Carter,
I want to fact check that.
I have tried my entire life
Lie about that, would you?
to support children and families.
Clinton.
You know, right out of law school, I went to work for the Children's Defense
Can't
Fund.
find
And Donald
anything
talks a
on her.
lot about, you know, the 30 years I've been in public service. I'm proud of that. You know, I started off as a young lawyer working against discrimination against African American children in schools and in the criminal justice system. I worked to make sure that kids with disabilities
did have
could get a public
67%.
education, something that
Okay.
I care
I don't
very
think she
much
would lie
about.
about something like that.
with
You don't know
Latinos,
that.
one of my
But
first
why
jobs
would
in
she?
politics.
What does she gain by lying about that?
Registering Latino
know.
citizens to be able to
And
vote.
usually our numbers are right.
So I
I don't
have
know, I
a
just wanted to
deep
fact check
devotion,
something.
to use your
Yeah.
absolutely correct word, to making
sorry.
sure that every American feels like he or she has a place in our country. And I think when you look at
I think we're
the
behind
letters
again.
that I get, a lot of people are worried that maybe they wouldn't have a place in Donald Trump's America. Write me, and one woman wrote me about her son, Felix. She adopted him from Ethiopia.
Oh no.
I'm resetting it because I think we're behind.
And he listens to Donald on TV, and he said to his mother one day, will he send me back to Ethiopia if he gets elected?
Oh,
Oh.
that's
You
actually
know,
a
children
sob
listen
story.
to what is being
did
said,
it
to go back to the
her
very,
words.
very first question. And there's a lot of fear that, in fact, teachers and parents are calling it the Trump effect. Bullying is up. A lot of people are
Did you
feeling,
see that
you know,
video
uneasy.
of
A lot
the little
of
girl
kids
who
are
was
expressing their concerns.
Trump came to her
So first and
kindergarten classroom and
foremost,
she started freaking
I will
out.
do everything I can to reach
What-
out to everybody.
what show is that
Democrats,
on?
Republicans, independents.
Say that
people
again?
of color in the country. You know, vote
Trump
for me.
came,
I
went
still
to a
wanna be your
kindergarten
president.
classroom
I
and one of
wanna
the
be
little
the
girls
best
started
president I can
freaking
be
out.
for every American.
Secretary Clinton, I want to follow up on something that Donald Trump actually said to you. A comment you made last month. You said that half of Donald Trump's supporters are, quote, deplorables, racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic. You
Oh,
later
he's
said you
bringing the
regretted
heat.
saying half. You didn't express regret for using the term deplorables. Mr. Carter's question, how can you unite a country if you've written off tens of millions of Americans?
Well, within hours, I said that I was sorry about the way I talked about that, because my argument is not with his supporters. It's with him and with the hateful and divisive campaign that he has run, and the inciting of violence at his rallies, and the very brutal kinds of comments about not just women, but all Americans, all kinds of Americans. And what he has said about African Americans and Latinos, about Muslims, about POWs, about immigrants, about people with disabilities, he's never apologized for. And so I do think that
You kind of apologized for the sexual assault thing before blaming it on Clinton, Bill Clinton.
we ran a campaign based on issues, not insults, and he is supporting me 100%, because we talked about what we wanted to do. We might have had some differences. We had a lot of debates, but we believed that we could make the country better, and I was proud of that.
I'll give you a minute, 20
We
seconds.
have a divided nation. We have a very divided nation. You look at Charlotte, you look at Baltimore.
I think the last
violence that's
question
taking
could be
place in
on
the inner cities,
on
Chicago.
racial
You take a
justice
look at
for sure.
Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Because we haven't
We
seen
have
enough of that
a
up to this
increase
point with everything.
in
What do you
murder
think, Alon?
within our cities.
I agree.
We have a
I
divided
think
nation.
the one thing that's kind of annoying me, I wish they would talk about climate change. I know that's stuff that they don't talk about, and that annoys me. I know they were talking of even having just a fully scientific-based debate about science.
Well, how would that work with Trump?
What?
To me,
How would that work with Trump?
She said she'll let them
tremendous.
It's just the idea of people should know about people's various positions. Like, do you know offhand what Trump is going to do with NASA?
Getting with her.
Mr. Trump, let me follow up.
That would be
2008,
interesting to
you
know.
wrote in one of your books that the most
I would
important
support
characteristic of
that.
a good leader is discipline. You said if a leader doesn't have it, quote, he or she won't be one for very long.
Trump's not going to be a leader for long.
Tweets from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m., including one that told people to check out a sex tape. Is that the discipline of good?
No, it wasn't check out a sex tape.
While
It was
some
just
might
take a look
say
at the
that
person
a
that
major
she built up to
presidential
be this
candidate
wonderful,
telling people to
Girl
check
Scout.
out a
She's not a
sex
Girl
tape
Scout.
is
By the way,
negative,
just so you understand,
I
when she
think
said
that
3 o'clock
he's
in the
willing to
morning-
share
I
more
mean,
with the people.
we all know Abraham Lincoln did it when he was running.
Yes, Abraham Lincoln made sure that the
She
American
didn't,
public
because when ambassadors
knew
stood,
everything that was going
Is
on.
that the discipline of good leader?
600 times. Well, she said she was awake at 3 o'clock in the morning, and she also sent a tweet out at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, but she
wasn't.
wasn't.
Oh no!
She wasn't tweeting about sex tapes and Miss Universe is getting fat. That's a very different thing.
600 requests for help was Sidney Blumenthal, who's
Who
her
thinks
friend
Rand Paul is
and not a
attractive?
good guy, by the way.
He's talking about birther. Why are you talking about birther?
Tweeting happens to be a modern day form of communication. I mean, you can like
If
it or
you're
not like it. I have
somehow view us
between
from the
Facebook
Twitter,
and Twitter, I have
guys,
almost 25
you know
We
that.
have nothing against Twitter. Just if you're tweeting somebody to check out a sex tape at 3 a.m., that's probably not something a presidential candidate should be doing.
Even Eastside Online doesn't do that. We're barely a reputable news source.
No.
Just kidding. Eastside is one
You
of
know
the
it's
best.
bad when a school newspaper is more reputable than presidential candidate.
Yeah, we got 500 votes on a poll. We had
Republicans,
numbers.
former Republican members of Congress. But it's in part because those of us who have had the great privilege of seeing this job up close and know how difficult it is, and it's not just because I watched my husband take a $300 billion deficit and turn it into a $200 billion surplus and 23 million new jobs.
Okay, so
And
she
incomes
can't
went
have
up
it both
everybody.
ways with
Everybody.
Bill. She
African
can't
American
say this is
incomes went up
completely unrelated to
33%.
Bill, and this is like
And it's not just
This is
because
Bill-
I worked with George
Yeah, I
W.
terms
Bush
agree.
after
through.
I agree. She has to.
that when I
She
told
can't
him what
just
the
take
city
him
I mean,
away when it's to advantage, and put him forward when it's to advantage.
Yeah.
And I have worked,
That's
and
just-
I admire Obama. He inherited the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression.
That's true.
That
And he
was
did nothing
terrible.
to make sure that it never happens again.
5 million.
Secretary Clinton, we have to,
5 million homes were lost, and
Secretary Clinton,
$13
we're moving
trillion
on.
in family wealth was
Okay,
wiped
see,
out.
they're cutting her off too. I don't
Yeah.
think successfully though.
Yeah, you know, they're keeping really, really tight in this.
Secretary Clinton, we are moving to an audience question. We're almost out of time. We have another, Mr.
Oh my
Trump,
god!
It is our country.
I'm looking up a
Secretary
graph.
Clinton, we have
American
to the audience.
growth
Thank you very much,
percent.
both of you.
MH.
We have another audience question. Beth Miller
Is she
has
smiling?
a question for both candidates.
Oh yeah, that's you.
Good evening. Perhaps
He
the
was
most
going the wrong
important
direction.
aspect of Supreme Court justice. What would you prioritize
Oh, hey,
as the
Merrick.
most important aspect of selecting a Supreme Court justice?
We begin with your 2 minutes,
GDP growth
Secretary
is
Clinton.
Thank you. Well, you're
Yeah.
right. This is one of the most important issues in this election. I want to appoint Supreme Court justices who understand the way the world really works, who have real life experience, who have not just been in a big law firm and maybe clerked for a judge and then gotten on the bench, but maybe they tried some more cases. They actually understand what people are up against, because I think the current court has gone in the wrong direction. And so I
Wow,
would
she's
want
actually
to
talking about this.
Supreme Court
Yeah.
reverse Citizens United.
Like what's his
And get
name? Thomas
accountable money
was.
for politics.
Wow, she.
Donald doesn't
That's surprising me.
the Supreme
I
Court
didn't
to
think she'd
understand
be for. I mean, against.
parts of our country, that we don't always do everything we can to make it possible
You
for
see, I'm
people
not
of
so
color
sure if I'm
older people
for or
and young
against
people to be
Merrick
able to
anymore. I mean, I like him
exercise
a
their
lot.
franchise.
But if she
Let me
could
say
put
this:
someone,
I'm for Merrick in the principle that the president chose him. It doesn't matter if we like him or not. It's the president's choice.
yes,
Now, Donald has put
I'm
forth
against
a
Merrick in terms of his policies.
consider,
I'm
and among
The president
the
has the
ones
right to choose him and the right to appoint him, and Congress isn't. Ugh.
I'm just saying if Hillary could find
I
someone
think
more
that would be a
conducive, then
terrible
once
mistake and would take us
the
backwards.
Democrats might
I mean,
end up with a majority.
Once if he doesn't come up before Obama's end of his term, first off, I feel terrible for him.
Yeah,
Something doesn't
he's just
mean
a
you
poor
have any more
federal
rights or should have any more
justice
rights
who's
than anybody else.
judge who's been
So I have
congressionally
very
high.
clear views
I mean, no
about
other way
what
to
I
look
want
at
to
that.
see.
Yeah.
I want to change balance on the Supreme Court. And I regret deeply that the Senate
mean,
has not done
Okay,
its
so
job.
I know that when
and they
she
have
says
not
change the
permitted
balance,
a vote
I mean,
on the person that
it's fairly
President Obama, a
obvious
highly
that she
qualified
wants
person,
to tilt it more
had
liberal
not given
anyway.
him a
Yeah, but see, that's what now the Supreme Court is being more
Okay, and wait,
liberal, being more like party wise.
I hope that they
This
will
is what I don't like
You
about
brought
it.
up having
Because Supreme Court beforehand, yeah, people would have like there would be conservatives, or would be progressives, but it wouldn't be like, okay, you're with Democrat, you're with Republican, we don't talk. It seems like this is the direction
Yeah.
the court is headed, and I don't like
Yeah.
when Scalia went with Ginsburg to the opera and then ate a dinner with her. Like that's the Supreme
Yeah.
Court. They have differing opinions. Sometimes they have the same opinion, and that's how it works. But they're making it like party. I don't like that.
I want to hear what Trump has to say on this.
So that people would see highly respected, highly thought of, and actually very beautifully reviewed by just about everybody. But people that were the Constitution of the United States. And I think that this is important. Also, the Second Amendment, which is totally under siege by people like Hillary Clinton.
And he's deflecting.
They'll respect the Second Amendment and what it stands for, what it represents. It's so important to me. Now, Hillary mentioned something about contributions, just so you understand. So I will have in my race more than $100 million of my money, meaning I'm not taking
I'm saying that
all of this big money from
He's
all
bringing
of
up
these
a
different
good point on
corporations like
this.
she's
Yeah.
doing. What I ask is this.
If he's going to
I'm putting
deliver
more than-
that.
by the time it's finished, I'll have more than $100 million invested.
I would just like to point
Pretty
out
much
that
self-funded line. We're raising money for the
he couldn't
Republican
get
Party,
any
and
of
we're
those
doing
huge
tremendously on
donors
the small
because
donations,
they decided not to
$61
support him
average or
this
so.
time around.
No, it doesn't even matter. He doesn't need the huge donors, really.
$50 by being in office.
I mean, it'll help. I think she has more money than he does at this point, right?
Yeah, she's quite a lot more money.
Yeah.
than he
10
does.
or 20, 25 or $30 million into your own campaign. It's $30 million less for special interests that will tell you exactly what to do. It'd be a nice sign to the American public. Why aren't you putting some money in? You have a lot of it. You've made a lot of it because of the fact that you've been in office. Made a lot of it while you were Secretary of State, actually. So why aren't you
He
putting
brings
money?
up a good point.
Just curious.
He does.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We're going to get on to one more question.
The question was about the Supreme Court, and I just want to quickly say,
Very quickly.
I respect the Second Amendment, but I believe there should be comprehensive background checks, and we should close the gun show loophole and close the online loophole.
We have one more question,
As
Mrs.
many lives
Clinton.
as we possibly can.
We have one more question from Ken Bone about energy policy. Ken?
Science? No, that can't be right.
What's our energy
Science
policy
bait.
take to meet our energy needs while at the same time remaining environmentally friendly
I was right.
for fossil?
They were going to talk about climate change at the end.
Energy is under by the Obama administration, under absolute secrecy. The EPA, Environmental Protection
I thought it's
Agency,
the Department of Environmental.
and foreign companies are now coming in, buying so many of our different plants, and then rejiggering the plant so that they can
Jiggering?
take care of their oil.
Is
What
that
is
an
jiggering?
Let me check.
Killing energy business in this country. Now, I'm all for
He either has a good vocabulary or he just said
To
jiggering.
rearrange or tamper with. Yeah, jiggering is
Oh,
is a word.
That's an amazing word. I'm actually really.
He's a businessman. He
happy
knows
on
this
it.
type of stuff.
There is a thing called clean coal. Coal will last for 1,000 years in this country.
Not a good
Clean
one.
coal.
He's a businessman, not a good one. But
I'm fact checking clean coal.
Unbelievable. We have found
wait, what did you
the
say?
last
Clean coal?
tremendous wealth right under our feet. So good, especially when you have 20
But
trillion.
it still is a non-renewable
I will
resource,
bring energy companies back.
and it's
They'll
not
be able to
completely
compete.
emission-free.
They'll make money. They'll pay off our national debt. They'll pay off our tremendous.
How do we
budget
pay off our
deficits, which
national debt if
are
we're spending
tremendous,
I
lots
thought he
of
said he was
money
going to default it.
on tax?
out of business? We have to bring back our workers. You take a look at what's happening to steel and the cost of
How? They asked him that at the last debate.
I said earlier that a scientific
which
debate would be
essentially is
horrible.
killing our steel workers
This
and
is
our
what we're
No,
having.
because it'll.
have to
They don't.
guard.
The Republicans don't get exposed enough for how much they deny science. Just having a scientific debate.
that
I
they
don't
are
know.
putting
It'll.
companies out.
It doesn't
of business.
matter
And what
though.
you have to do is
There's
go to a
still
great place
he's
like
still
West
going to try to
Virginia,
turn it like
places
this.
like Ohio, which is
If
phenomenal.
it's only asked by scientists, scientists would be able to cut him off.
What they're doing
Yeah.
to the people,
They know
the
their stuff.
miners, and the energy business.
Instead, he's
it's
just
a
talking
disgrace.
Time's up. Thank you, sir.
about the war on
Absolute
coal.
disgrace.
Secretary Clinton, 2 minutes.
Well, that was very
I brought that up with
interesting.
Pence.
First of all, China is illegally dumping steel in the United States, and Donald Trump is buying it to build his buildings.
Oh!
Business. That's something that I fought against as a senator, and that I would have a trade prosecutor to make sure that we don't get taken advantage of by
So
He's
China.
having
she's
a
going to
prosecutor
try
for
to-
trade, and he's having a prosecutor for
Just-
Hillary Clinton.
Aware of people.
So
in the
it
business
goes
who
both
know
ways.
that we are
It goes
now
Only one is a legitimate prosecutor, the second one is an abuse of power.
The Middle East still controls a lot of the prices. So the price of oil has been way down, and that has had a damaging effect on a lot of the oil companies, right? We are, however, producing a lot of natural gas, which serves as a bridge to more renewable fuels. And I think that's an important transition.
Oh my gosh.
Got to remain energy independent. It gives us much more power and freedom than to be worried about what goes on in the Middle East. We have enough.
Oh, we
worries
have
over
a-
there without
We have a
having to
note from
worry about
Danny
that.
Nadeo. He's a cool guy.
Comprehensive energy policy, but it really does include
Fellow East Side
climate
editor. He
change,
mentions
because I
that
think that is
Trump
a
was supposed to be
serious
talking about
problem.
energy. What is
And
this?
I support
I'm not entirely
moving
sure.
toward more clean, renewable energy as quickly as we
Tell you
can.
what it isn't. It isn't energy.
I think the 21st century clean energy,
It's about the war on
solar
coal.
power, and create
Dastardly
millions
war.
of new jobs and businesses. But I also want to be sure that we don't leave people behind. That's why I'm the only candidate from the very beginning of this campaign who had a plan to help us revitalize coal country. Because those coal miners and their fathers and their
That is a
grandfathers,
good point.
they dumped
Let's just talk about a little bit about globalization. It's obvious we can't keep coal jobs in America forever. We can't keep low education labor in America forever. And I think it's at least necessary to have a plan for dealing with the excess workforce.
Wait, what-
Question, and it comes from Carl Becker.
I thought that was the last question. I'm sleepy.
My question to both of you is, regardless of the current rhetoric, would either of you name one positive thing that you respect in one another?
Aww,
Aww. She's laughing!
that's so cute.
Trump, would you like to go first?
They're like an old divorced couple.
Well, I certainly will, because I think that's a very fair and important question. Look, I respect his children.
Oh, it's so.
I like Melania, not Melania. What's her name? Ivanka a lot too.
I don't agree with nearly
I don't know.
anything else he says
If I
or
had
does,
a
but
son, I
do
think they would be
respect
dating.
that. And I think that is something that, as a mother and a grandmother, is very important to me.
Aw.
So I believe that
She took this right down
election
burn country.
has become in
Oh.
part so conflict oriented, so intense, because there's a lot at stake. This is not an ordinary time, and this is not an ordinary election. We are going to be choosing a president who will set policy.
She's turning this into
for
a closing
not
statement.
just for
'Cause I don't think they're gonna
years,
give her
but
one.
because
I don't
of
think
some
they're
of the
gonna give her
important
one.
decisions we have to
Oh,
make here at home
Do you think they're
and
not?
around the world.
It is getting
from the
sort of
Supreme
late.
Court
I
to
don't-
energy and so much else.
Wait, I'm hearing an
And
echo.
so
I'd like to hear-
I'm hearing an echo.
At stake. It's one of the most consequential
Yeah.
elections that we've had.
Yeah.
And that's why I've tried to put forth specific policies
Testing.
and plans. I'm trying to get it
Oh,
off of
still
the
hearing you.
personal
Never
and
mind.
put it on to what it is I want to do as president. And that's why I hope people will check on that for themselves so that they can see that, yes, I've spent 30 years working to help kids and families, and I want to take all that experience to the White House and do that every single day. Mr.
Oh.
Trump.
Well, I
I wanna
consider
hear
her
that.
statement about my children to be a very nice compliment.
Aw.
It was meant to be a compliment. but it is a great. I'm very proud of my children.
I think it was supposed to be a compliment.
They've done a
That was the
wonderful
question.
He's
job.
complimenting himself.
So I consider that a compliment. I will say this about Hillary. She doesn't quit. She doesn't give up. I respect that.
That's cool.
I tell it like it is. She's a fighter. I disagree with much of what she's fighting for. I do disagree with her judgment in many cases. But she does fight hard. She doesn't quit. She doesn't give up. And I consider that to be a very good trait.
Thanks to both of you.
I want to thank both the candidates. I want to thank the university here.
Okay.
Yeah, no closing statements.
Well, I think if we,
Washington University, and to everybody.
Wait, are there closing statements?
On
I don't know.
October 19th for the final presidential debate that will take place at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Good night, everyone.
well, we are going to be moving into some ending commentary. So, Alon, who won that debate?
I think Donald Trump crushed. No, I'm kidding. I think it was quite obviously Hillary, for a combination of reasons. One, Donald Trump just the questions were for Hillary. I'll say that the moderators were definitely had a bias for Hillary, and I feel like they just didn't like Donald Trump. And most of the issues they brought up were issues that were detrimental to Donald Trump. Now, in my opinion, that was a small factor that had Donald Trump been a good debater and good at deflecting stuff like Hillary is, he would have actually survived and maybe even won the debate. But I think he a combination of the judges being biased against him and him just imploding was what led to his loss.
Yeah, it was rough out there. It was really rough. And the thing was, Trump sort of ripped himself apart. It could have been a lot worse. He could have been given harder questions. Hillary could have even really went against him, but she just let him rip himself apart.
Yeah, I said, I think it's just the idea of he needs to know how to debate, and if he can't handle Hillary Clinton, then how can he handle Putin? How can he handle Assad? How can he handle anyone? You need to be able. This is the idea of temperament. When you have, I agree, it wasn't 100% fair for him. They didn't bring that many issues up that were detrimental to Hillary and beneficial for Trump. But at the same time, you need to be able to handle that. It's just, if you can't handle that, then that just shows that you're not qualified to be president.
Yes, indeed. In terms of the sort of policy things that were said, I really liked what Hillary did. I thought that she tried to make it her focus, at least, to talk knowledgeably and really work towards what she wanted to say tonight.
I agree.
As compared to,
I think that was very good in the fact that she really provided herself as a contrast to Donald Trump. Like Hillary Clinton would talk about policy, she would talk about what she's going to do, different facts, and then Donald Trump is just going with rhetoric. And I think that by making herself that much more different from Donald Trump, she really showed the distinction between the two. And I think that was, I noticed that was what she was trying to kind of go for by trying to make a huge distinction between her and Donald and labeling him as a crazy person who just says stuff randomly, and her as a person with facts who keeps her cool and just gets stuff done. And I think she really did that well in this debate. I mean, she didn't even interrupt him a lot. And it ended up kind of like being the reverse of Kane and Pence, in which in the vice presidential debate, Kane kind of looked pathetic interrupting Pence all the time. And now it was switched over in which Trump looked pathetic interrupting Clinton all the time. And it was especially pathetic when, like Jim Webb, he was complaining about the time. It's like, oh, you guys are too much pro her. I think the questions were biased towards Hillary. I don't think they were,
for sure.
In terms of the timing, I don't think that they were biased towards Hillary. I think timing wise, they were pretty fair.
could they have been worse in their questions towards Donald? As in specifically, could they have spent the whole night talking about the moral issues with Trump and the various comments he's made? Because Hillary did bring that up at various points. There's just so many people he's offended, so many groups he's out of.
They could.
And she did bring up.
And they spent a good
Everybody
deal of the
would.
first part on that. Basically, the first part was Trump's moral compass being off, and all his statements that he said, and part of that was his fault too when they were talking about the Islamophobia. He could have addressed it and maybe said it's a problem, and here's how I intend to fight it. He doesn't say himself that he hates Muslims. It's implied, but he can spin it. As much as he's not. The problem is he's not smart enough to even spin Islamophobia.
Yeah. So I think we're going to start to wrap it up. I'm going to, if you're still listening right now on East Side Online, we have a poll that we just put up. It already has 36 votes, and I just put it up while Alon was talking. Make sure to vote on that. That'll be up for the next 24 hours. That's what we're going to use if we do some sort of Sodcast recap, which I'm unsure of. Wednesday is Yom Kippur. But thank you for listening. Thanks. This is really our inaugural coverage, our inaugural audio coverage of any sort of content like this. I'm really happy that I was involved with it. I think Alon's very happy that he was involved with it, and we're going to hope to continue this into the future. So thanks for tuning in, and this is Josh Sodicoff signing off.
So Alon Goldfinger signing off. Have a good night.
Thank
guys.
you.